Why does heartbreak now come with a checkout page? Like grief needs a shopping cart to feel official. Somewhere along the way, breakups and divorces stopped being private disasters and became public content seasons, complete with tearful vlogs, carefully worded statements, and the weirdest innovation of all, the divorce registry, where followers can literally buy a creator a new bed, a new couch, a new life. It's framed as community support, mutual aid, healing in real time. Yet it also looks suspiciously like monetization with mascara streaks and better lighting. Stay till the end. The hypocrisies and untold truths you're about to see will change how you look at influencer vulnerability, breakup culture, and the business model hiding behind "I didn't want to share this." At first glance, the breakup looks raw, intimate, almost uncomfortably close. A creator sits on the edge of a bed or on the floor of an empty apartment, camera angled slightly downward, eyes red, voice unsteady. The lighting is soft, natural, forgiving. Nothing looks staged, which of course is exactly the point. This is not a production. This is real life, captured in the moment, shared reluctantly because you deserve honesty. The language follows a familiar script. This is hard to talk about. I didn't know if I should post this. I never wanted my relationship to become content. Each phrase reassures the audience that what they're watching isn't exploitation, it's transparency. The breakup is framed as a burden the creator is bravely choosing to carry in public, not an opportunity they're carefully packaging. Media coverage reinforces this framing. Headlines describe these videos as vulnerable, brave, or heartbreaking. Articles focus on emotional courage rather than logistics. The influencer isn't monetizing pain, they're opening up. The audience isn't consuming drama, they're supporting someone through a hard time. Language does a lot of moral work before anyone asks practical questions. Visually, the breakup season has its own aesthetic. Neutral tones, oversized sweaters, minimal makeup, a quiet apartment that looks newly emptied even if it isn't. Wedding photos disappear from feeds overnight. Old posts are archived, not deleted, preserving a clean timeline for the new chapter. Instagram grids reset. YouTube thumbnails soften. Fonts become calmer. Everything signals transition. Then come the statements. Carefully worded notes posted to Instagram stories or notes apps, screenshotted and shared across platforms. The phrasing is deliberate. We have so much love and respect for each other. This was a mutual decision. Please respect our privacy. Even when the breakup is messy, the public version is restrained. Conflict is sanded down. Blame dissolves into growth. And beneath it all, the audience gathers. Comment sections fill with sympathy, heart emojis. You deserve happiness. Take all the time you need. We're here for you. Support feels collective, almost ceremonial. Followers who have never met this person speak as if they're close friends. The parasocial bond tightens in moments like these. Pain creates intimacy, and intimacy creates loyalty. Soon after, the practical layer appears, often framed as reluctance. A creator mentions needing to move, needing furniture, needing help starting over. Links appear quietly, almost apologetically. A wish list, a registry. Sometimes it's described as a joke, sometimes as a suggestion from followers, sometimes as mutual aid. The framing matters. This isn't asking for money, it's letting the community participate. The registry doesn't look like luxury. It's couches, kitchenware, lamps. Normal objects. The ordinariness is key. It suggests necessity, not indulgence. Buying a toaster feels like helping, not consuming. The act of purchase becomes emotional labor, a way for followers to process the breakup themselves by contributing materially. Influencers emphasize boundaries while maintaining access. I won't be sharing details. This is all I'll say for now. And yet the content keeps coming. Updates, reflections, healing routines, morning coffee in the new apartment. The audience is assured they're not being fed drama, they're witnessing recovery. On the surface, this all looks compassionate, community-oriented, modern, a new way of handling public life honestly in a digital age. Breakups are hard after all. Support helps, and if someone has built their career online, isn't it natural that their hardest moments unfold there too? That's the surface logic, and it's persuasive, because nothing here looks overtly transactional. No one says, buy this to support me. No one demands anything. Everything is optional, soft, emotionally framed. The monetization hides behind empathy, the content hides behind healing, and the audience is invited not as consumers, but as witnesses. This is the layer everyone sees vulnerability as courage sharing, as trust, support as love. A breakup not as spectacle, but as communal processing. But surfaces exist to make deeper structures easier to accept. And once heartbreak becomes legible as content, once it fits into a familiar visual grammar, it stops being an interruption. It becomes a season. Over time, a powerful myth forms around the influencer breakup. It isn't treated as an ending, it's framed as an awakening. The relationship didn't fail, it taught. The marriage didn't collapse, it clarified. Pain becomes proof of growth, and the person at the center of it all is recast, not as someone going through a private crisis, but as a protagonist entering their next chapter. This myth is built through repetition. Influencers describe the breakup as necessary, inevitable, even brave. I outgrew the relationship. We're on different paths. This was part of my healing. These phrases circulate endlessly, picked up by fans, captions, and commentary channels. The breakup becomes a narrative device rather than an event, something that had to happen so the story could continue. PR language reinforces this transformation. Statements emphasize self-love, boundaries, and alignment. Conflict is reframed as incompatibility. Hurt becomes mutual. Responsibility dissolves into abstraction. By avoiding specifics, the story stays clean. And cleanliness is essential to myth-making. Messy details disrupt redemption arcs. The myth also relies on contrast. Before the breakup, constrained, misunderstood, holding back. After the breakup, lighter, freer, rediscovering selfhood. The visual language mirrors this shift. New hairstyles, new wardrobes, new apartments. A refreshed aesthetic signals internal change, even when the audience has no access to what actually changed. Quotes become central artifacts in this mythology. Lines like "I'm choosing myself" or "I'm finally listening to my needs" are elevated into slogans. They're printed on graphics, repeated in comments, defended aggressively. These phrases do moral work. They turn personal decisions into ethical statements. Disagreeing starts to feel like attacking someone's healing. Sarcasm and irony smooth the edges. Influencers joke about the chaos of divorce. They make lighthearted reels about dating again. Humor reframes instability as resilience. Pain becomes relatable content. The myth assures audiences that everything is under control even when it clearly isn't. Fans play a crucial role in maintaining this narrative. Supporters flood comment sections with encouragement and validation. "You're glowing. This was meant to happen. We're so proud of you." Forgiveness is granted preemptively. Questions are treated as hostility. The audience becomes emotionally invested in the myth's success because it reflects their own beliefs about growth and reinvention. Platforms reward this dynamic. Breakup content performs well. Vulnerability spikes engagement. Healing updates extend watch time. The algorithm doesn't distinguish between genuine processing and curated storytelling. It only measures response. And response validates the myth. If people are watching, sharing, and buying into the story, it must be meaningful. Eventually, the breakup stops being about loss and becomes about branding. The influencer isn't someone recovering, they're someone relaunching. The pain becomes origin lore, a justification for new values, new boundaries, new revenue streams. The registry, the merch, the podcast episode all are framed as extensions of healing rather than products.
The most effective part of the myth is how it reframes monetization. Buying furniture isn't consumption, it's participation. Supporting a wish list isn't transactional, it's solidarity. Spending money becomes a way to emotionally invest in someone's rebirth. Commerce is disguised as care. At this point, the breakup has completed its transformation. It's no longer a rupture, it's a resource. A narrative asset that explains the pivot, deepens loyalty, and refreshes relevance. The myth assures everyone involved that this isn't exploitation, it's evolution. And as long as the story feels sincere enough, no one asks the most uncomfortable question of all, whether healing that requires constant performance is healing at all. Because myths don't exist to describe reality, they exist to make certain outcomes feel inevitable. Once breakups become predictable content arcs, they stop being treated as emotional emergencies and start being handled like production schedules. Behind the scenes, nothing about a public separation is spontaneous anymore. Timelines are discussed, statements are drafted, monetization options are considered quietly often before the audience ever hears the word divorce. What looks like emotional collapse on camera is frequently accompanied by calm logistical planning off camera. Here's the first detail that changes how you see everything. The content doesn't follow the breakup follows the content model. Influencers know that silence kills momentum. So even when they claim to be taking time away, the absence itself is framed, explained, and teased. I'll share more when I'm ready. That sentence does two things at once. It sets a boundary and it promises future engagement. Grief becomes serialized. Healing becomes episodic. Now look at the financial layer. Divorce is expensive. Moving costs money. Setting up a new home costs money. But when those realities are introduced to an audience of hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions, the equation changes. A registry isn't just help, it's distributed burden. A couch doesn't cost one person $2,000 anymore. It costs 2,000 followers $1 each. That's not generosity replacing struggle, that's scale replacing privacy. But what happens when the cameras turn off? The registry isn't neutral. It's curated. Items are chosen carefully to look necessary, not indulgent. No luxury branding, no excess. Everything communicates need, humility, realism. The optics matter. A lamp looks reasonable. A bed frame looks essential. A designer sofa would raise questions. The line between support and spectacle is managed deliberately. Here's the next uncomfortable detail. Breakup content performs better than almost anything else. Analytics consistently show that vulnerability spikes engagement. Crying thumbnails outperform smiling ones. Titles that suggest emotional collapse generate curiosity clicks. The algorithm doesn't care whether pain is genuine, it rewards intensity. And once creators see that numbers rise during personal crises, it subtly reshapes incentives. Not consciously, not cynically, but structurally. This is where motive gets complicated. Most influencers don't sit down and decide to monetize heartbreak like villains. The system nudges them there. When posting about pain brings comfort, validation, income, and relevance, while staying silent brings loss of momentum. The choice isn't really neutral. Vulnerability becomes labor. Emotional exposure becomes part of the job. Ask yourself this micro question: if sharing pain paid nothing, how many of these breakdowns would stay offline? Another detail few people notice is how control is maintained. Influencers often say they're not sharing details, only feelings. But feelings without facts are powerful because they're unchallengeable. You can't dispute someone's pain without sounding cruel. Vagueness protects the narrative. The audience is guided emotionally without being informed contextually. This asymmetry matters. The creator controls what's visible. The ex-partner often doesn't. One side curates grief, the other side disappears. The breakup becomes a one-person story, clean, coherent, monetizable. Accountability becomes impossible because the audience only ever sees one edit. Now zoom out further. Breakup seasons don't end when the crying stops. They evolve. Healing routines appear. Therapy talk enters the frame. Morning routines in the new apartment. Soft optimism replaces despair. Each phase offers new content angles, new brand integrations, new talking points. The divorce isn't just processed, it's amortized across months of output. Here's another micro hook people miss: resilience sells better than resolution. Actually, resolving pain would mean stepping back, disappearing, rebuilding privately. But resilience can be performed publicly. It looks inspiring. It's shareable. It reassures the audience that their investment, emotional or financial, was worthwhile. Supporting someone feels better when you can watch them bounce back. And then there's the moral shield. Criticizing this model is difficult because it's wrapped in empathy. Questioning a registry sounds like shaming. Questioning monetization sounds like denying support. The language of healing protects the system from scrutiny. Everyone grieves differently. Don't judge how people cope. These statements shut down structural analysis by framing everything as personal choice. But personal choice doesn't exist in a vacuum. When platforms reward vulnerability, audiences reward openness, and income follows exposure. Private grief becomes a market opportunity, whether anyone intends it to or not. The influencer doesn't invent the system, but they learn how to survive inside it. Here's the final detail that reframes everything. Once heartbreak becomes content, not sharing it becomes a risk. Silence can look suspicious. Privacy can look cold. Choosing not to explain can alienate followers who feel emotionally entitled after years of access. The breakup doesn't just belong to the people involved anymore, it belongs to the audience. And that sense of ownership is what makes monetization feel acceptable, even expected. At that point, the line between support and consumption fully dissolves. The breakup is no longer a personal rupture. It's a scalable event, a season, a revenue curve. And once grief fits into a content calendar, the most dangerous question isn't whether influencers are exploiting pain. It's whether the system leaves them any other way to survive it. This shift doesn't just tell us something about influencers, it reveals something deeper about the culture that surrounds them. We are living in an economy where attention is the primary resource and emotional transparency has become one of its most valuable currencies. In that system, private experiences don't stay private for long, especially when they can be translated into engagement. Breakup content thrives because it fits perfectly into a broader social pattern. Audiences crave intimacy, relatability, and emotional access. The internet rewards stories that feel raw and unresolved. Pain keeps people watching. Healing keeps them invested. Closure ironically ends the cycle, which is why true closure rarely performs well. This dynamic also reflects how support has been redefined. In offline life, helping someone through a breakup usually means time, presence, and boundaries. Online support becomes visible and transactional. Likes, comments, shares, and purchases replace private care. Buying something from a registry feels like doing something tangible, even if it primarily reinforces a parasocial bond. Zoom out further, and this mirrors how capitalism absorbs emotional life itself. Systems that once monetized productivity now monetize vulnerability. Sadness, resilience, and self-reinvention become assets. The market doesn't need people to feel better, it needs them to feel interesting. And heartbreak, when framed correctly, is endlessly interesting. This also changes how audiences understand responsibility. When grief is broadcast, spectators feel entitled to updates. Silence becomes suspicious. Privacy feels like withdrawal. Followers aren't just watching, they feel involved. That perceived involvement blurs ethical boundaries. Consumption disguises itself as care. There's also a gendered dimension hiding in plain sight. Much of breakup content, especially crying vlogs and emotional transparency, is socially expected, even demanded from women creators. Vulnerability is rewarded, but only when it's aesthetically controlled and emotionally legible. Pain that's messy, angry, or withdrawn is far less acceptable. Ultimately, this isn't about whether influencers are sincere. Many are. It's about how sincerity functions inside a system that converts attention into income. When platforms, audiences, and brands all reward emotional exposure, personal boundaries erode, not through coercion, but through incentives. So the uncomfortable question isn't, why do influencers monetize heartbreak? It's why the system makes monetization feel like the most reasonable response to pain. Because once grief becomes content, opting out doesn't just mean privacy, it means invisibility. In the end, the most unsettling thing about influencer breakups isn't that they're public, it's that they're efficient. Pain is processed quickly, packaged cleanly, and distributed at scale. What once would have been a private unraveling becomes a structured arc announcement, vulnerability support, healing reinvention. The registry is the clearest symbol of this shift. It takes something deeply personal, starting over after loss, and turns it into a collective transaction. Buying a lamp or a bed frame feels compassionate, but it also completes the circuit. Grief is acknowledged, validated, and monetized in one smooth motion. This doesn't mean every creator is exploiting their audience. Many are simply navigating a system that rewards exposure and punishes silence. But systems shape behavior, and when heartbreak performs better than happiness, it quietly changes what gets shared. So the real lesson isn't about individual morality, it's about incentives. A culture that equates openness with authenticity and support with spending leaves very little room for private pain. Healing that happens off-camera risks being mistaken for absence. Absence risks being mistaken for irrelevance. The punchline is uncomfortable. If your breakup needs a registry, maybe it stopped being just a breakup a long time ago. If your grief needs to perform, maybe it's already working overtime. And when heartbreak comes with affiliate links, the question isn't whether it's real, it's whether we still recognize the difference between caring and consuming. Because in an attention economy, even the most intimate endings can become profitable beginnings.